Hi, I'm Dr. Daniel Brubaker. Welcome back to Variant Quran. Today I'm going to be answering some of your questions from previous videos, so stick around. All right, so thank you very much. We're about 1 month, about a month and a half actually, into the starting of this channel. I'm very glad that you all are here. I'm so honored by the fact that so many people have been interested and subscribed. If you have not subscribed, please take a look below and do that so that you can get notifications. And also, if you're signed in, you need to hit the bell if you want to be notified. I've already been hearing from some people who are asking me why they're not getting notified every time I release a video. And if you're not getting notifications, it could be because you have not clicked your specific preference to get notifications. What I want to do today is actually not spend too much time. I'm not going to be going into any new material today. I am going to be answering some questions. So if you have asked questions, or if you're interested in seeing how I respond to some other people's questions, feel free to hang around and stick around until the end. I am going to be mentioning something that will be coming up in a couple of days. I'll be mentioning it very cryptically so that you, to pique your interest. Well, I have received some comments on the videos, and I've responded on the comment threads on the various videos, but wanted to pick out a few. All right, so there we go. Inquisitive Mind says, do you have any more examples of early manuscripts where corrections are done and it still doesn't match the current Quran? And to that I answered on here, yes, there are many more examples to come. Muhammad Kutub says, missing words in Quran, what a great discovery. Did you discover that alone? You can attack Islam as you wish, but it's not good to lie. These differences in Quran is known since Prophet Muhammad time and is mentioned in Hadith books, means you did not discover anything. Now, a difference in Quran is called Qira'ah in Arabic, and it was given to Prophet by the angel, and so forth. So what Muhammad here is saying is that he is thinking that what I have talked about and described is the same thing as the Qira'at. And there are a couple of things we need to talk about in that regard. So the Qira'at are something that are not the same thing as a difference in the consonantal skeleton of the Quran text. And so when we talk about Qira'at, now some of the different readings do involve a difference in the Rasim text, but for the most part, when we're talking about the different readings, we're not talking about differences in the skeletal text, what we call the Rasim of the Quran. And so Muhammad might not have, Muhammad Kutub, who asked me this, well, he shares the name with somebody else who's very famous there. I just noticed that, although he spells it differently. When we're talking about the sorts of things that I've shown you in corrections or variants so far, for the most part, these are not things that are reflected in the Qira'at. Number one, that's the case. It's something different from the Qira'at. The second thing that I want to say about that is that the Qira'at, the whole tradition about the Qira'at, the different readings, was something that came to be codified at a later time than most of these manuscripts were written. And so Shadi Nasser has written about this. I'm going to show you one of his books here in a second. I didn't think to get it. Just a moment. Here's one of Shadi Nasser's books. Let's see. I think he's coming out with another one. So he has discussed the whole matter of the codification, the formalization of the idea of the Qira'at, the different readings. And one of his conclusions, he makes a technical argument in there, but one of the main things that he notices is that there was a process by which the different reading variations were chosen to be the authoritative ones was number one, later. Number two, they were chosen out of a variety of different possible readings, and not necessarily, in fact, even by which ones were the most authoritative, but by which ones were most popular. And I'm very overgeneralizing his argument there, but that's one of the things that I noticed when I read his book a number of years ago. So when we talk about the readings, the Qira'at, as this commenter mentions, in respect to the manuscripts, we might be talking about something that's anachronistic. It's something out of its time. Now, the readings may have been something, and probably were something, that were in at least developmental form at the time that these manuscripts were written, but we don't take that for granted when we're doing history, that these necessarily trace all the way back to the early stages, let alone to the time of Muhammad. They may, and so we keep that as a possibility, but what I'm looking at with the variations in the Quran is not necessarily just the readings. Here's one from Aprilia Etha Putra, who says, hey, why you delete my commentars? Are you scared, brother? And I don't know what was being referred to here, but I haven't deleted, to my memory, any of your comments, Aprilia. Infinite Reach Ministries says, also, can you do a section on the Topkapi Palace Quran? Yes, I'll be happy to do that. Blurst of Times says, this is the start of something beautiful. Thank you for your service. Well, thank you for the comment, and thank you for the nice thought there. Bo Rudder says, philologists rock. This is awesome. Thank you very much. Somebody whose name is written in Korean, and I can't read Korean, although I one time tried to learn it. I did learn a little bit of Korean. Says, can you make subtitle for this video? Because I cannot understand some words. And I will try to, I'm not sure quite how to make a subtitle for the videos. I think there's a way. If you know how best to subtitle videos, if you have information or expertise in this that you want to share with me down below, please do so. Jamal Khan says, great video. Johnson John says, any Indian Christian like me here? And John Thomas says, yes, Malu here. And Johnson John says, from Karnataka, peace. And Yahweh Saves says, Carolite. Well, just wanted to say thank you for you all the way from India paying attention to this. And don't know if some of you know that I do have an Indian connection. I'm married to a family from Kerala, origins in Kerala, and I can actually read Malayalam for the most part. Not completely, but I've got some of my stuff here, my Malayalam dictionary, and a couple of kids' books that I first started learning with. So, all right, so glad to have you here on the channel, and thank you to all of our friends in India and everywhere around the world who are paying attention to this channel. Kashif M says, I'm looking forward to this channel. I'm hoping to get more information from you regarding Bhima and Bhimithli. It is interesting how Bhima is attributed from Ibn Abbas, and wondering if there's reason why they want to leave him out since he is cousin of Muhammad. It seems to be more about theology concern from Shahaba versus reader of Mus'haf. I think he means Sahaba. Yeah, would love to see if the Rasaman early manuscript had problem as well. Well, Kashif, you may know some people have written about this, and one of the manuscripts that I have shown does have a correction involving Bhima and Bhimithli, and I will talk about that more in the future. I don't know that it's necessarily a problem in the manuscript. In fact, it's one of those instances in which there's some attestation or discussion of it in the secondary literature, and so when we see something like that in the manuscripts, it's helpful to look at that and understand that it's probably, or at least possibly, related to what is being discussed in the secondary literature. That is a good thing, but the interesting thing in my research has been a lot of it has not been discussed in the secondary literature. Some of that is because it's a mistake, but some of it I think is probably not attributable to either of the reasons, so that's what's going to be interesting to look at as we go forward. BMW635CSI says, Dr. Brubaker, great video on this topic. Your research is starting to provide clarity on the authenticity of present-time Quranic texts. Do you plan to translate your book in other languages? And yes, I will let you know that I do have a translation in process into German, another one into French. I'm not sure when those will materialize. I think the German one will probably come out first, but I'm working on that. If you are interested in being involved or know somebody who you'd like to be involved with something like that, do let me know. MJ says, excellent video. I have been waiting a long time to hear about this topic from an academic expert rather than any religious apologetic. Thank you very much. I take that as a compliment because I'm not doing this as an apologetic. I'm doing this hopefully from an academic and fairly straightforward manner. I do understand and appreciate that people are using material for apologetic and polemic and discussions and all those kind of things, and I think that's just fine. But thank you for recognizing the tone that I'm taking in these videos. Maximiliano Dent says, I have been waiting to watch this for the last 20 years. Well, thank you very much. And how did you know I was coming 20 years ago when you started to wait to watch for this? But thank you so much. Enter Elohim says, video quality and sound quality is top-notch. Congratulations. Lighting have a warm feeling. Lovely. So thank you very much for that. Good comment on the quality of the video. Nabil Yunus says, this channel should have at least 1 billion subscribers. Well, thank you very much. That would be very fun to have 1 billion subscribers. Simpleton90 says, nice try, doctor, but you failed in your first opportunistic attempt in finding fault with the criterion. Unlike other religious books, the Quran was mainly preserved by mass memorization. And this is an interesting thing because what Simpleton90 is saying here is that there was an oral tradition that went all the way back to the time of Muhammad, and that this was the way that the Quran was transmitted through oral memory. In other words, Muhammad spoke the verses, they were memorized by those around him, and then they were collectively passed along orally, and that this was the prime way that they were passed along before eventually being written down, but that the written manuscripts only ever formed a secondary form of transmission, that there was primarily transmitted orally. Now, this is a theory. I just want to point that out. It's a theory. It is embraced as the true way that it was transmitted, and it may have been the way that it was transmitted. But what I am doing, I just want to make it clear with my work, is testing that to see if it makes sense when compared with the physical evidence. So we do have witnesses. We don't have any of the people alive today who were alive at the time that the Quran came into being, who can tell us their testimony. We have some things that were written down that were related through what's called an isnad, a chain of transmitters. But even those things are things that, if my father told me that his father told him that his own father, his great-grandfather told him something, that may be true, but it may also not be true. We do, however, have some witnesses that go all the way back to the 7th century, for example, and those witnesses are called manuscripts. They were written down, and so they provide us with solid evidence of something. And so that's what I'm doing by looking at this. It could be the case, and by the way, the other thing I want to say about this is that I'm not looking to find fault with the criterion, and by the criterion he's referring to, he or she is referring to the Quran. I am attempting to do good history and to ask questions of it. Tatiana J. answers that comment in a much more concise way than I just did by the statement, the faintest ink is more powerful than the strongest memory. And I think that's a very good point, is that memories can change over time, and there's something to be said for oral memory and oral transmission, because there are oral cultures that can have remarkable preservation of things in their oral memory. But that is a truism, that the faintest ink is more powerful than the strongest memory. Bin Almad Al-Atiki says, debunked, and even much more on the way, and posts a link to some video there. So it's interesting to me that I've seen a number of people say something about debunking my work, I guess, or debunking the videos, and I don't know what there is to debunk, unless perhaps if I describe something in the manuscript that wasn't in the manuscript, or if the manuscript wasn't authentic or something like that. So if you would clarify to me what it is that you mean by being debunked, that would be interesting to me. Aside from that, I'm just pretty much describing what's in the manuscripts. All right, Nadim Rahman says that at 1753, in this particular video on which he's commenting, the insertion of the word Allah, he does not tell the reader or viewer that without the insertion the verse is ungrammatical as it would read, and that is the knower of the unseen. The knower of the unseen is an adjective and needs a noun to describe. Hence the need for the word Allah as the noun. Without doubt, this is an error on the part of the scribe. All right, well, that is fair enough, but the point here, and this was a comment on my first video in which there were the insertion of words down further on the page. The reason I did not mention the circumstances of the Allah insertion on that particular video is that it wasn't particularly relevant to what I was talking about in that video. It wasn't my focus to talk about those other two corrections. My focus and point was to note that the manuscript was corrected 2 times earlier, and then it was left variant in another spot. So yes, that's a good point, and some of these Allah insertions are not grammatical without, and other types of insertions are not grammatical without what has been written in, and that helps us to understand what's going on with that particular insertion, but that was not the correction that I was discussing in this video as a focal point. All right, and the same commenter makes a comment, an academic review and refutation of Dan's conclusions, and he links, I believe, to Haitham Sidki's review of my small popular level book. And because this review came out last November, and I didn't initially answer it because I didn't think it necessarily needed an answer. It's got a number of, well, it does have some good points in it, but it also has a number of problems in the review, and I didn't consider it needing necessarily a quick answer. But since a lot of people have been sharing it around, I have begun to do an answer, and I will be putting forth an answer to it soon. So be on the lookout for that. All right, so that's what I have here with these few questions to answer your questions, and I hope that you will continue watching. And in a couple more days, as I said at the beginning, I intend to make a small announcement. Please continue to spread the word about this channel, pass around links to these videos, and as always, your comments and suggestions are appreciated. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.